How about the Hunter Biden laptop controversy? How you handled that?
Well, how I handle it or how the actual thing I said on the Trigonometry podcast, which provoked it? I mean, there's what I did in the aftermath of it, and there's what actually provoked it. I mean, I don't think I was, what I regret, I mean, I wrote about this, or spoke about this or both. What I regret was, and it really wasn't something controllable by me in advance, but I regret that I was not speaking as clearly as I should have been in that conversation, right, so as to be understood. I mean, I was speaking colorfully. I say, saying that I wouldn't have cared if he had the corpses of children in his basement, right? I knew that was colorful, but I do that. I've done that since. I speak that way occasionally because it's less boring, and in the fullness of time, that i.e. not clipped out by some malicious psychopath, I can justify the very utterance, that it was colorful, right? I mean, it's like I'm not misrepresenting my views. I mean, where it's maybe there's some exaggeration for effect, it's within proportion to what I'm actually saying, and it's all defensible, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't regret it in the end. What was regrettable about that interview was that I really wasn't speaking as clearly as I sometimes can. I mean, there's a range of. I mean, sometimes you get me at the mic, and I speak more or less exactly the way I will want to have spoken in retrospect, and sometimes I'm a bit of a mess, and that's just a neurological problem, right? It's like I really don't have complete control over that. So in that case, I was, for whatever reason, I might have had a migraine. I might have not slept well the night before. Who knows what happened. It was not my A game, certainly. And I also crucially, I got interrupted at a moment where I was in the middle of a thought, and the half thought that came out was genuinely misleading. And so, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a perfect storm there. But the truth is, even as it was in context, if one wanted to understand what my actual view was, it was understandable. I mean, it was clear that I didn't know what the policy should have been journalistically around the release of the laptop when Rudy Giuliani announces, 10 days before the election, that he's got this laptop from hell. What should the New York Times have done? Again, that's still a toss up. I mean, again, they had to have known that when Comey reopened the spurious email investigation the last time around, that is what got Trump elected, right? That there's really no debate about that. I mean, you could say that it shouldn't have been that close in the first place, and so there are all these other reasons that you can ascribe to Trump's victory. But the fact that it was that close, that was decisive. So this clearly had been held as an October surprise, and so to merely just play his game by slavishly putting it on the front page of the New York Times and struggling to get to ground truth for the 10 days remaining. Again, I still don't know what journalists should have done there, and I think it's totally reasonable for them to have said, this looks like Russian disinformation. This got weirdness all over it. The fact that Rudy Giuliani is telling us a story about an abandoned laptop in a some computer store. None of this sounds right, and we're not going to figure this out in time. So let's just circle the airport here for 10 days so as not to screw up another presidential election. That strikes me still as the sanest policy, given what we knew at the time, and also given what has been revealed in the aftermath. I mean, what was on that laptop that I should care about? Is there anything? I still haven't heard the thing that I really need to care about. I guess the reason why I don't regret any of it is it is the thing that finally broke the spell of around my engagement with Twitter. I mean, it was that and seeing what was happening to Elon's brain, that combination. It dialed up so much noise in my life coming from the right. I mean, I'd had the equivalent noise that came from the left, with the Ezra Klein episode, which really was at the same scale. I mean, in some ways, it wasn't at the same. Maybe it wasn't at the same scale online for the average viewer, but it was at a bigger scale in my world because left of center it was coming from voices that I actually cared about. I mean, there's virtually nothing that was coming from the right that I cared about because these were Pizzagate lunatics who were aiming their fire at me. but it convinced me to get off social media, and, so that was, I don't regret that at all. So
I don't think I can ever hear anyone mention, Giuliani's name again without thinking about that, the Four Seasons
4 seasons, total
landscape.
landscaping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that had to be one of the greatest episodes. I mean, just being behind the scenes somewhere and
Oh,
watching them
yeah.
say, "There is no Four Seasons, but there's Four Seasons landscaping."
Right.
Well, we're gonna put a podium up in the backyard. I
Yeah,
mean, that's one of the greatest,
amazing.
moments ever.